Hello and welcome to the Unusual Stories podcast, and this is Wojciech Salski, of course. This time on our Unusual Dialogues, I have an acquaintance of mine here that chosen to remain anonymous, and today I have a very special episode for you guys. First of all, because of the fact that my guest is anonymous, which I think adds to the taste of it, and it reminds me of some of Jocko Willink's podcasts, or sort of the mysterious people that are so important that cannot be shown to the public. And also because it's going to be a very different one. I've not yet had a chance to speak with someone that by now had an opportunity to live and can compare living in 5 different countries. They also been to the Finnish Navy, and we will talk basically about the experiences they've had, as well as the time in Finland, Russia, Poland, Switzerland, and potentially UK. And maybe in the UK part, I will be able to add some taster from my side. So yeah, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Wojciech.
Lovely to have you here, and let's kick it off. So maybe as a little background story, and I think this is the main topic that I would like to focus on to start with, is could you explain to us how did you end up in the Finnish Navy? Maybe a brief background of, how did that come about, and was it a part of the compulsory military training in Finland, or was it something else?
So naturally, as I'm a Finnish citizen, I was at the age of 18. Everyone are called upon doing a compulsory military service, a minimum of 6 months, maximum 1 year to and potentially extending to doing a cadet service or further engaging into a military career. As I hit 18, I was given a notice to go through a medical checks, also some military checks to for them to determine which area of the military I would like to go, and where they would see me suitable going to. And as you know, as I've gone through all those checks through these stages, I was really, at that point, I really wanted to go to the Marines / Navy. So I always liked to be kind of on the coast / near the sea. So I wanted to go to Navy, Marines, and I got that place. So I was really lucky.
And how long have you been there? Because you said it's 6 months to a year or 2. How long was yours?
Yeah, so mine was exactly 1 year.
Interesting. So just a brief question here before we go forward. I assume, I anticipated to start with that they sort of just point you in the direction where they need people now. But since you've had a slight choice, let's say, was there different tests depending on the different groups? Like, for example, I assume they needed you to know how to swim to be in the Navy, right?
Yeah, so basically there wasn't much of tests per se. There was more of a filing. First of all, they take into account the school that you went to. They take into account your your hobbies, your like activities that you do. So they do some sort of assessment. They will not put you into a physically hard department, let's say, if they know that you are not really been doing anything physical. So if you haven't done any sports, they will not put you into a super, super sporty and super, hard, always in the forest kind of a brigade. So they will assign you more not academic, but you will be an administrative servant. So basically, they take into account your health, um, your abilities to withstand some hard hardships, physical hardships. They do consider that you're going to be living in a forest for like a week or two minimum. So they would like to be sure that you're not going to end up dying there basically. So yeah, as much as they don't do like hard tests, they do some basic tests. They make sure that you are capable of withstanding some sort of pressure, and yeah, they then kind of tell you where do you need to sign up afterwards, and then after your wishes are considered and after what they've assessed you, then you're just given a notice and then you're going there. You don't really have a choice to change it. You don't have a choice to argue against it. You just kind of going and reporting for duty.
Of course, no, I mean, fair enough. It's the army after all. And maybe just a side question as well. I do wonder, do you know if there are double standards, if there are different standards for women and men joining in terms of, like, for example, physical tests?
Before or during the service?
Before.
I wouldn't be able to answer that question because, well, I'm
Fair
a
enough.
male.
And during.
For sure there are some, for sure there are some jokes, for sure there are some, prejudice elements when you're serving with women, and it's it's very it varies from person to person because at the end of the day, the first months, especially like the first 2-3 months when you're in the army, you are mixed with a lot of kind of people, so they don't they you're not straight up starting with like with your kind of category people. You are starting with everyone, so you will have, let's say, admin people with some Olympic swimmers in the same room, in the same, kind of doing the basic military trainings for the first 2-3 months, and you're all mixed up there,
So it's
so
like
you
a
never know
foundation
who's
foundation
exactly.
module. I see.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's a foundation module. So you will see, you will meet people that, don't want to be there. You will meet people that are kind of like got there and they're, I wish this ends soon. And most likely that's the people who are there for 6 months. And of course, these are sometimes they even get out like earlier than that. There are some due to some health concerns. Some people just really don't like to move. They just want to quit straight away, and then they kind of put their mind towards quitting straight up, and you can see it's a real struggle for them, especially for the first 2 months, because they've been dragged out from their normal lives, whatever they've been doing, into a completely different environment where they've been told to do stuff like every single minute. They have timelines. They have to learn discipline, and it's especially hard, for these kind of people. Well, not for these kind of people. I want to say for a lot of people, and some people align themselves to adjust. and kind of move forward. Some people don't. They stick to, what they want to do, what they are used to do, and they just quit. And then some people just ride along. Some people just kind of, go with it and see where they end up. They don't really take it as stressfully as others. And to kind of get back to the question of gender and whether women are and men are having kind of double standards there. Well, in the first 3 months, not that much, because you will see, for example, a woman who is first of all women in the army, in the Finnish military, are voluntary. So they have a choice. They don't have to go there, but if they want to go, they go.
That's an important indicator, though. That's yeah. That's a big change, because I thought everyone has to go through it.
And sorry. Let me clarify. All the men, for sure. Women, voluntary. So that's kind of clears the air a little bit, because when you have men who don't want to be there and are there, they're one thing, and then you've got the women who want to be there, and that's already a different kind of a mentality,
Of
right?
course.
Of course, no, that's great. That's awesome. And so, maybe first, how was it for you? Because you've ended up staying for a year. So how was it for you? Give us a little maybe overview of the journey, and well, why did you stay?
Well, so I'm a generally very action orientated guy, and not to say, like, I don't want to say that I wanted to be, in the hot spots, like I want to dedicate my, I didn't want to dedicate my life to the army or, whatever. But any time that I had an opportunity to do something hard and something, really, really different, I went 100% with it. So that was the time when I was like, right, I have an opportunity to do this for as much as I can, and I want to be able to experience that time there. Whether it's going to be 6 months or 1 year, I didn't know, but I wanted to do it for 1 year because I knew that it's a limited amount of time. 1 year is not that much. 6 months is even less. I knew that in 6 months you won't really learn anything. You won't really get anything from it. So I thought, right, if I'm gonna be there, I want to make it as useful, as fulfilling for myself personally as possible. So I went full. I went full in, and I've done the foundation. Then after that, because my foundation had a lot of tests. So we had, at the end of the foundation period, which was 2.5 months, we had a lot of physical tests. We had a lot of psychological tests that were kind of, designed to filter out the people and kind of sort them into the further departments. So further,
Specialize them.
further specialize them. So, I've smashed all my physical tests. I expressed my wishes to be in the reconnaissance team because I thought that's where the best action would be. And well, it turned out it was the second best action you could get in there. The first would be the special, like the special
Special
ops kind of
forces.
yeah, special forces, which would be kind of a different category. And turns out you had to apply there with a little bit of a different avenue. Well, I didn't know at that time, and that's okay. So I just had to play with what I had, and so after that, I got into the reconnaissance team, and I spent 6 months in the reconnaissance team alongside with the sergeant training. So we were in the department for upper kind of management, so military management. Well, not upper. Upper would be lieutenants, but kind of a semi, let's say, managerial level, which would be the sergeant level, and
Yeah. So for that, you both had to express the wishes and then fulfill some requirements for them to offer that position for you.
Yeah, so basically the entire kind of the entire process, whether it was foundation or the entire year, it was a points-based system. So uh, you had trainings, you had exercises, you had simulations, and you had assessments. So we were constantly assessed by our superiors. We were not all the time, expressly given points, but obviously our superiors had their own beliefs towards, what we can do, where we would be suitable best, what are, our abilities based on, their kind of their thinking. But then apart from that, we actually had some tests. We had shooting tests, we had physical tests, we had some psychological tests, which were, constantly kind of um, constant evaluation kind of throughout the entire year. And we had checkpoints during that period. And after each of the checkpoints, we were given kind of an opportunity to wish where we would like to go. And in addition to that, we had some points to contribute to that. So we had three choices where we would like to continue our service, and then it would be ranked from 1 to 3. The first one is like the kind of the direction where you really, really want to go. The second would be, the second best, and then third would be the third best. And then you have the points, and then you have your superior kind of input, your superior lieutenant who is overviewing, overlooking and training us alongside other sergeants during the first 6 months of that training, and they were also contributing towards where you're going to end up. And my first choice was obviously like being either lieutenant or sergeant. Lieutenant would be a bit higher, but I actually put sergeant in my first and then the lieutenant in the second, because from what I've been seeing, sergeants would get a little bit more action on the field, and lieutenants would be a little bit more at the back,
Of course.
and doing a lot of strategic planning and stuff like that. And I don't know whether it was the right choice or not, but I got the action from it. So I had enough points to get to where I wanted to be, to get to my first choice. So.
Awesome. Yeah, that's really cool. That's really interesting. And then I guess at this point, maybe before we go beyond the Navy, let's park here for a moment. And obviously, as you mentioned, a big part of it, as I understand, and let's say, a taster of that military vibe was in Scouts, and that was something that not everyone liked. Like some people joined and loved it, and some people would not really like it. I stayed with my friend for 2 years, so we've had a lot of fun. How was it for you? You said that with your character and your adrenaline-seeking personality, you fit there quite well, and you did stay half a year longer. So maybe give us some, I don't know, 2, 3 coolest examples of the things that happened that you said you were looking for action and you got it? So what did that mean to you?
Well, I guess to start the reconnaissance, the whole task, I would say, the whole idea of being in the reconnaissance team basically revolves around you being at the, as far in the enemy's, part in the enemy's areas as possible without being detected, and I guess that alone kind of got me really excited, because that's as that's as much action as you can get, is trying to infiltrate, trying to get in the epicenter of all of that, and then gather as much intelligence as possible, and then get back and try to recover yourself and your team. And yeah, so that's basically the background for that.
And okay, yeah. So give us some examples of the experiences. So, for example, just for context, when I was in Kuwait, I was actually celebrating Thanksgiving with a bunch of American soldiers, ex-military by then, and who were also actually praising the time that they've spent in the military, because it allowed them, for example, to pay for their studies. And one of the guys, I think, traveled the world with the Navy for 2 years, and then he got his studies paid for, plus he has great CV experience. What were your experiences throughout that year? I assume the first half was majority just training, very similar to everyone else, but then you stayed for another half a year. So what were some highlights that you could share with us that were particularly exciting for you?
The first one is definitely a ground simulations. So we had a kind of war situation simulations where all of the um, uh, sorry, where all of the departments kind of got together. We got split into attackers and defenders kind of a scenario, and each department was performing its own role, and it was a 2 week exercise where we were completely on the islands. We were relocating every 2-3 days, on the boat. We were setting up camps. We were observing. We were trying to get as close as possible to the quote enemy lines, and trying to get as much intelligence as possible um, for our cannon guys, for example, coordinates, the amount of troops, some specifics on what kind of equipments they had, and so on and so on. And it was really cool, because we would be awakened at like 2 o'clock in the morning, and we went back to sleep at 12. We had 2 hours of sleep. We got awakened by our lieutenant, and we had like few minutes to prepare to get our equipment, and then jump on a ship, and then straight up reallocate to another island, complete a mission, go back. I personally had some action. It was a training, right? It was a training, but um, we had a situation with an ambush. Things got heated up. Like I actually got into a fight with the guy who was trying to, take me in. It was like, simulating an enemy, but it was a dark night. They were scouting for us. We were trying to stay hidden. We got located, so some people had to spread out. They were walking with they were walking with some flashlights. We had guns with with the stoppers at the end. So we were just shooting blanks, but they were really loud. So it was a real like simulation of the the experience, and especially when you were like that close, like you're sitting in a bush and there's like 5, 6 people walking and trying to search for you, and they just walk right next to you, can't find you. I had to stay in the bush for another hour, trying to be as much undetected as possible. They for sure know that you are there. You have to, they don't know just which bush it is, but they know you're somewhere in the area. And you just start trying to stay there hidden, and at some point you need to get out. You need to, progress. You need to go further. You need to escape first, the group that is searching for you, and then you have to go and also complete the mission. So it was a lot of adrenaline. Some guy detected me. It was in a rocky, like it was in a rock. We just got relocated to an island, and the island was just a rock, and it was really dangerous. But as the adrenaline rushes, like these guys just spotted me. Had to go and judo trick that guy, and throw his gun away, and then just run towards another bush. And yeah, so basically throughout the entire simulation, it was a little bit less exciting than that, but somewhere around there, and that was a lot of exciting stuff that I remember. Mainly being that simulation, and prior to that, basically the training that kind of got us to learn all the skills necessary to perform a mission. And the second thing was probably the ship navigation. So after my time in the reconnaissance team, I was assigned to go on the ship, and I was
How long were
commanding.
those? How long were those assignments? Reconnaissance was 3 months.
So it was reconnaissance alongside with the sergeant kind of
Training, yeah.
training. Yeah, they were 6 months. So the first 2.5 months were kind of a foundation. Then the 6 months was the reconnaissance team, and then the sergeant training with the reconnaissance team, because we had corporals that were also being in the reconnaissance team, but we also had sergeant trainings, which are a little bit different, kind of a little bit of a different experience from the corporal trainings, but they were all kind of within the area of expertise of reconnaissance. So
And then
so that was
after
for
that,
6 months.
yeah. And then after that, that was the ship part. Sorry, so
Yeah,
continue
that
with the
was
ship.
Yeah, that was when I got the sergeant, my sergeant rank, and I got assigned to a ship, and I had a little bit of a different experience there because I wasn't anymore in the kind of a reconnaissance, but I was in the ship with a new, with new corporals that just joined 4 months ago. So I had to kind of learn very quickly a lot about ship discipline, being like Navy discipline specifically, not Marine discipline anymore. It was more of a naval expertise. So I had to learn some basic jargon, you know basic discipline, how to behave, and so on the ship, what to do in extreme situations, and just basically not much of a training those new corporals myself because it wasn't my expertise, but I was just kind of leading them from one point to another point. If we were outside of the ship and we had to establish some sort of a tent like what you call it,
Forward
like a
operating
quick
base.
house.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a quick house, like a quick house, like a quick spot, which we had to use for a couple of hours. So I was mainly kind of managing that area. That was for about a month, and then for another month, um, I was lucky to basically study with the cadets, and I got assigned into a team and learn, ship navigation, actually navigating a ship with cadets instead of just corporals. So I had a little bit of an let's say, experience throughout that 1 year. But as I said, I really wanted to make most of it and as fulfilling as possible. And I guess I completely managed to do that.
Nice, yeah. And in the meantime, were you able to visit home at any time, at any point?
Yeah, we were able to go most of the weekends, although some of the weekends we couldn't. The first 4 months we couldn't really take any weekends off. We just had to be in the base always. And obviously, if you are on the training in the forest for for a few weeks, for example, you are not able to go home. Simply,
Yeah.
you're just in the forest.
So finally, before I ask what happened next, what is your perspective on that? Obviously you've mentioned and we've talked about that extensively on our own. Like in the past in Poland, the conscription or the let's say the military training, conscription is slightly different, I guess. The military training as a compulsory training for youth used to be there, now it isn't, and there is a big debate, and always will be, I assume, what are the benefits versus the, let's say, the costs of doing so. And obviously this is going to be a biased opinion from you because you did enjoy your time, but what do you think? Do you think that's something that helped you, and do you think that's beneficial, like net beneficial for people in general? Try to be as general as possible, or would you say that was it's fun but it's not necessarily something that useful?
I mean, it's really hard to say whether it's in general beneficial for everyone because, as I said in the beginning, like a lot of people take it differently. Like some people, that were with me during the foundation period, they were, they didn't enjoy it, they didn't want to be there, they didn't see the point of being there. And then there is a lot, just to be clear, there's a lot of people like that. And don't get me wrong, it's not like, everyone are trying to force them to be there. It's, Finland is still, very kind of open-minded country and they're not they're as strict as the army can be. They still have to kind of take into consideration, and they do take into consideration your health, your overall, and not only your physical health, but also your mental health. If they see that you're just like you are
You're
you're not
hating
there,
it.
not with
Yeah.
them. It's not even like hating it. It's like the army has a way of kind of over getting over the hate. So like you can hate it as much as you want, but like you can stay there for half a year by hating it but still doing it because there is way around it to make you do things even though you hate it. And like but there is an extent. There's always a limit. So again, to
Let me change the question then. What was the benefit for you? What did you benefit from it? How did you benefit from it?
the best way to describe it is probably to say is in three kind of words. So discipline, survival, and being able to follow the rules. So not 3 words, probably 3 points.
I know why discipline and survival, we've already covered that, but why do you think it's beneficial to being able to follow the rules? Elaborate on that.
Your entire life, or that's just my perspective, right? Your entire life, you need to follow the rules, whether it's your own rules or whether it's, or whether it's rules imposed by other people or institutions or, whatever society. You gotta follow the rules. It can be a mix of them. You can create your own rules and follow them, and they sometimes intertwine with the rules of society, government, whatever. It's just rules, but it is not a given to follow the rules. It's, I believe, something that you need to learn, not necessarily through the army. You can learn it, by yourself, by, being exposed to either some hardships or just being a person you are that is, just generally, very, a person who is following the rules, because it's easier for them to live like that. But I know a lot of people, and I know myself, in the beginning, for people who are probably, a little bit, trying to search for themselves, trying to, find their place in life, or trying to figure out what to do, it can be very chaotic. And you are then driven by impulses rather than driven by rules. And being driven by impulses will only get you as far as the impulses go. But being driven by rules, again, whether it's imposed by you, whether those rules are imposed by you or someone else, they will systematically get you from A to B. And I think that puts into perspective a lot of things. First, you have a clear view of how things done, how things are performed, and what is the result of that. So this is you kind of getting a very, very open eye experience when you kind of learn how to follow the rules. You can put yourself aside and see, okay, I've done this and this and that, and this is what I got. Whereas when me personally, for example, when I was younger, before I was driven by impulses, that analytical part was completely absent. I just did something, it happened, I got to where I wanted to be, cool. But I couldn't, like it was not a
Replicate that.
very I couldn't. It's a replication, yes, but it's more of a, you can be lucky. You can be the luckiest person on earth, and you will be always lucky. But you know, when someone's asking you, how did you get there? What did you do? I don't know. It's just being lucky. Like that's not much of information. That's not much of a self um self
Knowledge.
self
That's
knowledge, self assessment. Yeah, but
that's really
this
interesting.
this this is what I got, at least. Yeah, this is what the lesson kind of I got from.
I guess I resonate with what you're saying, especially that sort of ability to see maybe a causality or some sort of action reaction in progress in front of you, because you're a part of a machine that you're there for whatever reason, that allows you to see how things work and what works, what doesn't. Maybe it's a nice crash course on what you do versus what you get, and I guess that is a benefit. Personally, and this is just my personal sort of reflection, I found that whatever outlet there is to foster discipline in young people is beneficial as long as it's not coercion, as long as it's not, forced upon them, whether through martial arts or learning an instrument or joining the army for half a year. I think that the discipline and what you said just now, like being able to even understand that even if you're not following the rules of the government, you are following some rules. You have some of your own rules, let's say legend or stories within you that you act upon. It's much better to know them than not to know them. So you can still follow your impulses as long as you're aware that that's what you do. Fair enough. Maybe that's your choice then, but it's better to have that choice than not to have it, and that's really interesting. Okay, so maybe let's go forward for a moment. Obviously, you left the Finnish Navy and you went to uni. You actually attended uni in the UK. Can you briefly, maybe, I've already talked about the UK extensively here, and the majority of our listeners are from the United States and the UK, so that part of the globe, I guess, they do comprehend. But I'm more interested in your time in Russia and in Finland. So you've had a chance to be... to experience both living in Russia and in Finland in your childhood, right? What are the maybe a few best and a few worst interesting things that you found in those countries?
Well, I'm probably the worst person to ask about the worst things that I've encountered because, well, as I move and I move a lot, I move for a particular purpose. So I was born in Russia, right? And my childhood there was very normal. I was doing a lot of sports growing up. I had a normal school, so I had a lot of good positive experiences. Then I moved to Finland. I went to school. My childhood was relatively normal. I don't know, maybe someone would disagree. Um, and I can't really put an objective line to say where is better and where is worse because, as I said, I'm probably the worst person to ask it because every time I move for a particular, reason, for a particular purpose, and it's like I'm a completely different person. So like, I can't, I can't say that I'm moving. For example, now I live in Switzerland and I work here for the work I work, and I can't imagine, having the same experience in some other country, whether it's the UK or Finland or Russia, because I didn't live that life there. So every part of me that was living, somewhere else, it was a good part. I enjoyed it. I gave it 100%, and I liked it for the experience I had there. Maybe in Russia I had, I didn't really do much of like self. How should I put it? My adult life wasn't there. I was growing up there. I was doing a lot of sports. I was doing judo for 7 years. My life was, kind of in action there as well. And I liked it. I'm sure there was days that I was hating it, maybe because I was tired, maybe because I didn't want to do it. But looking back at it, it was nice. It kind of built me a person I am today. At Finland, I was a little bit more mature, let's say. I was, a teenager, and I was doing the teenage stuff. I was again, doing a lot of sports. I was playing in a football club. I was playing football. Going to school again. School was nice, and I always had a propensity to go forward, learn more. Not stay in one place. So I went to European school. I learned different languages. I tried to interact with as much international people as possible. Made a lot of friends from that amazing time, right? But really incomparable to any other country that I've lived in, because I had a completely different, purpose and experience in that particular country. So yeah, like UK as well. UK is my university time, university period, completely different. What we did in the university, stayed in university, but the only takeaway is, I guess, the paper from the uni and the friends that you got there. But yeah.
Okay. So let me rephrase the question, because that's a very good point, and to some degree I agree. Although from my perspective, I can compare Poland to UK. Maybe because I've had at least a taster of living in Poland as a grown up, more or less, and that's maybe the major difference here. But then a different way, I'll ask that question: is there anything you miss from Russia, for example? Something that you found in UK is not there, or in Switzerland is not there, or in Poland, for that matter, is not there?
I will answer this question, but then I will a little bit amend your question, because I think that's also a little bit of I have a little bit of a different perspective on that kind of question. So
Awesome.
in terms of missing, not really, but again, that covers in the part of, well, if you move somewhere and it's a completely different country, and again, like, this is why I really hate comparing countries or whatever, because it's completely different. And when it's a completely different, it's like comparing apples to oranges. So what I miss is being compensated with, things that are missed in the other place. So and
I
that
see
and
what you
that
mean.
I never even thought possible to have. So when I, for example, I don't know, maybe saying, and we'll get back to Russia and Finland, but for example, when I moved to Switzerland, I have a mountain 40 minutes away from me. I go snowboarding every weekend. I didn't know that was possible when I lived in Poland. And as much as I, for example, miss, having some wild nights in Poland, I compensate with absolutely crazy night, uh, crazy runs on the snowboard every single Saturday. And to be honest with you, I don't even think about what I miss. It's just completely different experience. But to get back to your question, I think, and this kind of aligns with what is partially what I just said and what you've asked, is what's different, not probably what's missing, but what's different. And what's different in every single country is the people and mentality. And that's the two things that absolutely shape the experience and absolutely shape the place, the country well, anywhere around the world. Maybe some countries, you would argue, I don't know, I can't argue, but you probably, or people in general would, some countries are a little bit more similar, some countries are a little bit more different, but in my opinion, every single country is completely different from what I've been experiencing, because people are different, mentality is different, things that are normal in one country some of them can be normal, some of them can be absolutely not normal in the other country. Things that we think are acceptable in some other country can be, like, people will be looking at you like, what are you doing? So what is different is, yeah, in two words, is people and mentality.
I mean, and that's very, if anything, fair enough. I agree. It's very interesting. I just realized you've basically had the chance to experience pretty much, apart from the Mediterranean, 5 out of 6 or 5 out of 7 different type of countries in Europe. You know, you had Eastern, you have the Russian, which is a way in itself. You have a Scandinavia, obviously we have Anglo-Saxon, and then you have the Germanic country. Like the only thing that you're missing is a Latin one.
And you would be a full-blown
I would love to do that.
European globetrotter. I hope we will have a mansion somewhere at the Mediterranean in due time. I wish that for the both of us, man. But yeah, no, that's a very interesting thing.
And that's a really good point. You know, the people and the mentality. I get what you're aiming at, and maybe this is an invitation for you guys listening, just to think about it this way. And obviously, if you're moving to a different country, if you're like me, you're gonna probably look at a lot of technicalities that will be, as my friend said, there are some things that that he was pursuing to get to a different country for a different reason, but then you might not be thinking about people and the culture there and the mentality there. And that's a very interesting thing to think about, especially when we jump to conclusions about other countries based on politics, which I think is a big part of it, right? Because, you know, in the media, and this is a very weird tangent that I'm taking us on right now, but hopefully we can go on in that direction. But in the media, you don't really get that, right? You mostly get the technicalities and then the propaganda. You don't get to experience people's mentality and their true character. And what do you think about that? Have you found that going to a different country, you've had some expectations and they came true, or otherwise?
I tend, to be honest with you, and that's a completely honest answer, I don't have any expectations because I have absolutely no idea what to expect. Every single time I moved to a country, I did not know what to expect because reading books, reading things about the country, I found completely useless because the experience that you actually experience is nothing like the books tell you, is nothing like what you read in the newspapers. It's just like I don't know. There absolutely no other way to be prepared to have any expectations because well you can have an expectation but they're probably going to be crushed 99% guaranteed. That's just like saying that having a perfect expectation and then meeting that perfect expectation is kind of like really looking into the future with a I don't know time machine, and and then like reversing back and then living that exact same scene that you saw in your time machine. It's just not possible. You don't have a time machine. You can't. You can expect one thing, but then you come there and then it's going to be completely different because, well, you thought people are going to be different. If you thought that people are going to be different, suddenly, it's just going to blow your mind. It's also in my opinion, it's also a very dangerous way to have expectations because you might be very disappointed when you go somewhere or when you move. If you don't have expectations, you won't be disappointed. It will only be a lesson. It will only be kind of a journey that you have to go through. You just go through it. You don't have a choice. You don't have an option. I mean, you have a choice. You can always move somewhere else. But it's also it's also another move that is also imposing. You need to find a job. You need to find you need to have a purpose to go somewhere else, and that's another thing, right? So if you have an expectation, if you have some sort of expectations in terms of moving to another country, and then you come there and then you don't meet those expectations. I don't know, maybe they're going to be better than you expected, in which case you win. Maybe they're going to be worse than you expected, in which case you definitely lose, because then suddenly you don't like that place, you don't want to be there, you're trying to, escape from there, you're trying to find somewhere else, and then it's just kind of a road to the misery lane, which I don't know, I've managed to avoid, doing what I've just told you I was doing.
It does echo what I meant, and maybe I just didn't make myself clear that in books and in news and in all of those things, you don't really get to experience the mentality and the people. It's very difficult to have that. And 100%. I mean, if anyone who's listening to us never went to another country to live there for, I would argue, at least 6 months, then definitely do try, because it's a benefit. I would argue that it's a benefit plus, no matter. Even if it's going to be the worst 6 months of your life, it's going to teach you loads. Like, Kuwait wasn't the best adventure of my lifetime, and it was great. Like, very, very beneficial for me. Okay, so I'm mindful of our time, so I'll maybe skip a few questions, and I will not let you escape that one though. I'd like to learn, because basically I've not had a chance to interview yet someone who had an opportunity to live in Finland or in Russia, and for that matter in Switzerland, but I did interview a Swiss lady, so I guess that was a taster of it. Give us maybe two fun facts, fun things, something that you remember fondly from those places as something that was in particular. I'm not saying you miss it, but it's something that stood out to you as, oh, that's a cool little thing to have, or a custom, or whatever.
In Russia, I would say definitely white nights. So there is a period in end of May and throughout June when the sun doesn't set down, and it's one of the most magical experiences ever, because warm weather, 30 degrees Celsius, the sun, like, it's always light. You're out with you're out with the friends.
Does it matter
hanging out on the
which
streets
city? Does it matter which city? I assume it does, because Russia is so.
Yeah, Saint Pete,
I see.
the capital, or so somewhere closer to Scandinavia. But yeah, that's some of the most magical times ever, because I don't think I've been to anywhere where they have white nights like that. The city is just alive. People are outside doing their own things. The city, St. Pete, for example, St. Petersburg, is absolutely magnificent during that time. A lot of friendly people meet on the street, go bars, make some new friends, go down the river, and then they open up the bridges. They draw the bridges up, and it's just the entire city is just taking a whole new picturesque like painting. It's crazy. It's got some good memories from there, and it's mainly summers for sure. It's one of the most beautiful time and it's when this city and the people are most alive, and it's just beautiful. In terms of Finland, that's a good one. I mean, it's what I miss most is probably not the relevant, but what Finland is good for is probably nature. I would say, as cliche as it sounds, I mean, there's nature in the city center. There's nature all around you. The entire culture is built around nature. You know, whether it's buildings, architecture, whether it's people living on the islands. There's always a lot of stuff to do. There's always some new places to see, and it's a cool place to visit. You know, I wouldn't personally live there anymore, experiencing some other place, but my opinion is very subjective. But visiting it and always coming back there for a few days, I get re-energized by the amount of free spaces, green trees, and the amount of nature you get there is absolutely crazy, like nowhere in the world. Yeah.
Okay, and what did you like about Poland? And you don't have to sprinkle, any sugar here. Don't sugarcoat it. I'm literally just genuinely asking for a foreigner opinion on Poland, on Warsaw in particular.
Warsaw was wild, and this is the best probably that describes my experience there. Warsaw was wild because for me it was an absolutely unhinged experience. I find Poland, well, Warsaw, to be like right on the verge of being unshackled from kind of like previous I don't want to say regimes, no, probably previous habits, previous things, the way that they were doing things, and now just trying to be more, I don't want to call it again westernized, but it's not, because it's not really westernized. It's just being more open, and that's not very westernized. It's just being very open, being very unhinged, and you can see by the way people dress, by the way people behave, by the way like the way the parties go there is crazy. And yeah, my experience. I did 2 years in Warsaw, and damn, that was like one of the best times of my life. I loved it. I loved it. I had a different purpose there, but for the purpose that I had there was absolutely amazing.
In relationship to what you said about the Finland and close to nature, this is something that I've already talked extensively on the podcast about Edinburgh as a place that truly, like, it's one of a few cities that I've experienced that you don't have to look far to experience nature, and it's difficult in Europe to get that. I think in many capitals, London for that matter, or bigger cities in UK, I struggle to find a park even just to sit down and relax. So that's a great benefit, and that's definitely something I resonate with. So finally, my friend, there's been a certain theme I feel from you that was occurring over our conversation, and let's just dive into that for a moment. I've recently had an interview with a gentleman who was talking about finding purpose and basically living purposefully, whether living life purposefully or doing things purposefully. And it's interesting how your attitude to what you've told us so far, it strikes me as someone who's you aim and you shoot in a way. I guess we all do to a degree, but purpose is something that you said again and again, and it's an interesting way of looking at, an interesting and practical way of looking at decisions in life. And obviously I know you more than what we've explored here, but can you maybe just elaborate on that as a sort of maybe where are you coming from, and why is that helpful for you to decide? And obviously some of it might be coming out naturally because of your character, but it is an interesting and different approach, I bet, for many people of looking at, for example, moving to a different country or deciding to pick up a job.
Well, for me, I guess the way I describe purpose to myself or live it is a mix of both long-term purpose and a short-term purpose. So for me, long-term purpose would be something, something very kind of personal, not personal in a way that I don't want to share it with you. It's personal in terms of it's like a force that kind of grows inside me with a specific direction, right? It doesn't move very quickly. It doesn't move, it doesn't move impulsively. It just kind of grows towards my kind of my personal goals, towards what I want to be, in life in general, and that is the long term purpose. And the short term purpose is just kind of probably as the name itself tells is some short term goals that that kind of it's both. It's a mix of opportunities. It's a mix of what kind of achievements I would like to have that are not as great as what I want to be in life, but something that will contribute to my long-term purpose, to my long-term goals. So all of these things together, they create, I guess, one big purpose, right? What are you doing here? What are you doing in life? And for me, I mean, it's, some people would call it goals, some people would call it purpose. I don't know which one, whatever you want to call it, but for me, these little purposes, they shaped the way I moved. They shaped where I relocate. They created opportunities for me, which I took, and it's just it's that I really don't know
No,
how
that's
else I would
that's literally it.
describe it.
It's guiding rules, right? We
It's
set.
guiding rules. Yeah.
I like goals. I mean, I purposely call them goals, but yeah, someone might call it living with intention, living with purpose, or whatever one
Wants to
I
call
would
it.
I would probably say guiding rules is the kind of limitations that you should not be really breaking for yourself. But purpose is something that shapes these borders.
Fair enough. So as a pyramid of yeah, no, and that's great. Like that's the interesting part, like every one of us is different, and I bet some of people listening will resonate more with planning it out, while some might resonate more with taking decisions that might seem even sort of short term and rush, but if you have the long term in mind, they can be very strategic, and that's what I see from observing you in the life we lead. That you're very strategic, which I assume also what makes us so alike in many ways. Okay, so usually the closing tradition for my little podcast interviews is for the guest to give a certain, I don't know, invitation, advice, a quote that you found particularly useful in your life experience, whatever we've not covered yet, something that you'd like to leave our listeners with as a an additional bonus to what we've already discussed, as a gift to them.
Yeah, so probably I wouldn't want to go, and say a lesson, because I don't know if it's the right way or wrong way. I would probably say that what's kind of driving me, I don't know, maybe self-quote or whatever, is probably being what's important for me, is to be both critical thinker and open minded. So it's a very kind of I don't know, controversial maybe kind of a thinking, but it's just stretching you both ways, and it's that's what I try to be. That's what kind of drives me, and maybe someone, as you said, resonates.
That was awesome. I bet there's quite a few fun facts and interesting ideas for people to tune into. So yeah, other than that, guys, have a wonderful week as per usual. Stay happy, stay healthy, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Wojtek. Have a nice day.